Greetings ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. I will be your host, Thrones, bringing you a role-playing build known as the Icehearts Legacy. The Icehearts Legacy in a nutshell is a role-playing build intended specifically for a niche casual playstyle. The build revolves around being a pure ice mage using the winter skills from the Warden skill line while ignoring and not investing into the animal companions or nature skill lines. As our aim is to go as much icy as possible, the build is not intended to be in any shape or any form a endgame build, nor is it intended for any veteran content. It is purely designed for questing around and doing normal dungeons. The build has no problem soloing non-DLC normal dungeon whatsoever and doing any sorts of normal content. But the sustain is lackluster as we are only using the winter skill line from our Warden, so we are not benefiting a lot from passives in the animal companion skill line or the nature skill line. The Icehearts Legacy can be any race and any gender. While it can be any race and any gender, we will be showing you my iteration, which is basically Nord, my favorite race in the Elder Scrolls universe in any game. And I think Nord is a perfect fit for an Ice Mage in general, as we picked Warden in this case because of our access to the winter skill line. Now for the backstory. Growing up in Windhold, our character was always fascinated by the College of Winterhold, by the mages that always passed by or even visited the tavern, sometimes for a warm drink. He would often ask them questions about magic, and while growing up he would sometimes get gifts from those mages for his birthday, explaining how magic works. Our character immediately fell in love with the elemental aspect of magic, specifically manipulating the cold snow and the ice of his hometown. He was secretive, however, with his parents when it came to him learning about magic, fearing they would worry about him, and ultimately persuaded him to stop. After finally maturing, he left his hometown with the knowledge that he accumulated over the years, but with no practice. He heard a rumor in the tavern once the ancestral home of the witch-hunting Direfrost clan, the castle named Direfrost Keep, which has been abandoned following an attack by the ice witch Droda. Thrilled of the existence of such a mage, or witch in this case, as such to sharpen out his skills and learn new ways to manipulate frost ice magic, he heads out to the Direfrost Keep in hope. And now for the build. So, for our character, we are using a Nord Warden. The Warden is because of the ice skill line, so yeah, nothing too special. We put all of our attributes into Magicka. The stats aren't anything fancy, as said previously. This build is purely RP, so nothing much gained from going with this other than RP playstyle. We are having around 3500 spell damage, normal critical chance, same as weapon, a little bit of penetration. We are having quite a bit of resistance actually, especially when we buff ourselves later with the skills. We are using the Apprentice Stone. Subjectively speaking, I'm only using this for the sets which I'm currently using myself, and I'm using Witch Mother's Potent Brew for that Magicka recovery, max Magicka and maximum health. Our Magicka sustain is very trash on this build, just to be clear on that part. So yeah. And now for our skills. For the first skill on our front bar, we are using Frost Clench. It also taunts enemies, so if you ever queue up in a random normal dungeon just for fun, be sure to queue up as a tank so you don't mess around with the tank. It also implies major maim reducing damage done by 10%, which actually goes well with the rest of the build, which is a little bit more on the tanky side and it's really hard to die. The next one, we're using Elemental Drain for that, a little bit of Magicka Steel and reducing the physical and spell resistance of enemies. We are using Harness Magicka for the shield and Magicka return every time we get hit. We're also using Crystallized Slab because there's always those pesky ads around that like to throw fireballs at your bow, so this can go very handy. We're using Inner Light for a little bit of maximum Magicka, and Major Prophecy, increasing our spell critical rating. For ultimate, we're using the same ultimate on both bars, and it is Northern Storm, dealing frost damage every 1 second for 8 seconds. The enemies around you, reducing movement speed and increasing your own maximum Magicka for 30 seconds, which is not a small amount. And also you get a Major Protection, which reduces damage taken by 10%, which adds up a little bit to the tankiness of the whole build we have. For the back bar, we are using Unstable Wall of Frost. You can actually spam this one to clear out some ads if you want, but we also slotted on Frost Impulse for that job. We're using Winter's Revenge, because it is a spammable ability from Winter's Embrace, and Arctic Blast. We are using the Arctic Blast more for that frost damage every 1 second for, I think it was 5 seconds. We're using Ice Fortress as our final skill because it gives us a little bit of resistances and minor protection, which goes well with the major protection, this skill. So with this build we are pretty tanky. Also, a disclaimer, Unstable or just Wall of Frost itself spawns every time a damage shield, which is a small addition. It's a nice touch basically with all the abilities going on. For our sets, the main set we are using is Icehearts. I'm having a medium impenetrable, but that's not the best rate. Ideally you want light divines, but I mean, it's not like we're going with stats anyways on this build. So yeah, it adds you critical chance, and when you deal critical damage you have a 20% chance to gain damage shield, which absorbs some damage, pairs up nicely with annulment or harness Magicka skill. While the damage shield holds, you deal frost damage to all enemies around you, which is our main point of using this set, a little bit of ice damage. I'm personally using Ysgramor's set, increasing our frost damage abilities, but you can always go with what's the name of the wait, Icy Conjurer set, which basically summons a Ice Wraith that charges into an enemy, dealing a lot of frost damage, but I'm actually too lazy to farm it, so I went with Ysgramor's set. The other set we're using is Frostbite, which is also a overland set, which you can get from Blackwood, but you can get it in guild stores really cheaply, increasing your frost damage abilities by 8%, then increasing our damage done to chilled enemies, and increasing our damage done to enemies afflicted with minor brittle. So yeah, really simple set. If you don't like Frostbite and Ysgramor and want to go full aesthetics, you can combine Icy Conjurer with the set Winterborn. Yeah, Winterborn. When you deal damage, when you deal frost damage, you summon a ice pillar that deals 5,000 to 6,000 frost damage to all enemies in a 3-meter radius, which persists for 2 seconds. It's actually a pretty nice set if you want to go with the Ice Mage aesthetics, but personally I'm too lazy to grind those sets, and I'm just using Ysgramor with Frostbite and Iceheart. For our CP, literally the same as all my other builds, so Steed's Blessing, increasing movement speed, liquid efficiency, saving up a little bit on those potions. I'm using just regular potions, but you can tweak the build a bit. Rationer adds 10 minutes to your duration buff, basically from your buff food. I'm using Witch Mother's Brew, so it's a very nice thing to have. And Treasure Hunter, increasing the quality of items you find in treasure chest, just a nice addition. Everything here is subjective and subjective only. If you like fishing, go with fishing perks, whatever. For Warfare, we are using Precision for a little bit of critical, a little bit of stamina, Magicka. Our main skill, which I use on all my builds, is when you deal direct damage, you heal for 7% of the damage done, which is my main CP passive I like to have, and it's really showing itself, especially when you're going solo around. I mean, this build itself is very tanky, but having this is a overkill, so why not? I'm also going with Fighting Finesse, increasing my damage done and critical healing done by 2% per stage, which is basically 10% in total. I'm using Thaumaturge, which is damage over time effects by 2%, and Master at Arms, dealing direct damage by 2% per stage. We can actually reset this one and go a little bit more with AoE, because a lot of our skills are AoE. So let's go with this one. I recommend Piercing, this one doesn't matter, Flawless Ritual, and War Mage, because why not? A little bit more stats, go wild, purely subjective. Into fitness, I went a little bit maximum health, maximum armor. I like a little bit of the main skill we're using also is restore 1500 Magicka whenever you kill an enemy. So when you're going against a lot of vets, just spamming the wall of elements is really not a bad choice, because you will get the Magicka back anyways without any problems. I put on also Bloody Renewal. If you don't like Bloody Renewal, just go Rejuvenation or whatever heck you want, because as said, subjectively the whole build is pretty subjective. I mean, it is a role-playing build. I repeat that in every basically video, but yeah, you can never be too sure who's watching. For our fashion, I am using Icehearts mask, which is the reason why the build is called like it is. We are using Frostcaster's robe, so I went light in most pieces. I think I went medium with the hands. The boots I definitely went with the heavy ones, and I'm using Ice Reach guards. Just, I mean, I don't know why I'm using them. It's a robe, it's covering up everything I'm using, so sorry about that part. I'm using Icehearts staff on both bars, so I'm keeping up with the aesthetics. If you don't have the Frostcaster's robe or the Iceheart mask, I mean, you can always hide the... If you don't have the specific style, you can just clear it and just wear the helmet itself from the dungeon and just color it right. For if you don't have Frostcaster and you are owning the Frost skin, Crystal Frost, you can always wear something that shows that icy part of your build. You maybe want to go with a witch, ice guy or whatever. Just go with something that actually shows that skin. I recommend personally either Fanged Lair or Fanged Worm sets, which really show the skin. We can also go with Piandunian. I don't know how to pronounce this. It actually shows a little bit of these icy hands. If you don't like those, I think a nice recommendation would be Sea Giant. It sticks with the North theme with the icy, Sea Giant, icy parts. You can also go with Sunspire, and I personally really like the medium Sunspire. Let me find it in a second. Or Mazatoon. I'm really hard to pronounce those words. I apologize on that. Waking Flame is also showing a little bit of skin, and if you want to show the most skin you can, I really recommend either Sai Sahan's Jack, because it shows you the full chest view, or going with Chitinous from the last, I think, season of the Crown Crates, or is it this one? Can't remember, apologies on that. But if you want to go a little bit less icy on the looks but still want to be a Frost Mage, I really recommend Snowhawk. It's basically in the name, and Snowhawk really looks nice in general, except the helmet. But for the helmet we're going to use, I think it was Silver's Dawn. Snowhawk, let's see. Yeah, I'm missing the belt piece right there. For the head, I personally don't like the head, but it could tingle someone else, I guess. For personal reasons, I really like the Silver Dawn hat. It really adds a little bit of that forehead leather skin, and the shape itself really fits well if you're up for that. You can always go with whatever the heck you want. As I said, it's a subjective RP build. There's nothing too fancy. The whole point of this build is just going RP, and it's only intended for questing and normal dungeons. And I repeat, purely RP. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.